It is 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and you know what time it is. It's time to retrain your brain and to increase your peace in this show that we call The Golden Pause, where we talk about consciousness, happiness, creating change with a clinical hypnotherapist, me, Lucas. And basically, the aim of these streams is to give you um, more power, more agency, more freedom, so that you can basically be a calmer, happier you. And we're so excited that you are here with us. And this is episode 3. And I'm just so excited to be doing this and learning as I go. Basically, we go live every twice a week. We go live on Mondays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's like the timeline, the time zone of Sydney and the east coast of Australia. Well, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk about what makes us unwell. And obviously, when we work in a clinical hypnotherapy practice, and there's many reasons why people come and see us. But we've noticed, and I wonder if you've noticed this too. Have you noticed how much more people are talking about trauma? I wonder if you've got family or friends who are discussing trauma. You see it a lot more on the internet, on social media, people talking about trauma. There's also a whole lot of therapies and programs that people are going to for trauma. And basically, the reason that I wanted to discuss what makes people unwell is to kind of address this issue of people starting to chase trauma. Basically, because trauma is everywhere, and people's consciousness of trauma is basically so much more than what it used to be. People are starting to look for it, and what we don't want to happen is for people to believe that there's trauma, or to go seeking therapy when there isn't necessarily a need for it. And so basically that's why I wanted to talk about this issue. And because of this therapy chasing and trauma chasing, you see people trying to discover new therapies, trying to discover more and unpack more and more traumas. And it's like there isn't an end result. It's like the there's just new traumas that get discovered and unpacked, and more trauma and more trauma. And in hypnosis, one of the things that we talk about is that where you put your focus on increases. And so when people are looking for trauma, the experience of trauma increases. And so that's something that's important. And so my goal in discussing this is to if there is trauma in your life, 100% to pursue change and therapy to improve that, but to also understand what are the other factors that create pain in our lives that may not necessarily be trauma, where we can still get help, but we don't have to have this trauma filter for everything, where it's increasing our experience of trauma. And basically, I want to escape the trauma hamster wheel that we're starting to see people go into, just chasing the next therapy and unpacking the next thing. And so I guess the first thing to unpack is that healing is not about removing pain. And that's I guess like a false belief that some people enter therapy with. Obviously, reducing suffering is an important component of therapy, but reducing or eliminating pain is not true healing. And but yeah, we just want to be cautious about conflating pain with trauma, because pain is actually a very useful tool for us. It tells us there's something wrong, there's something that needs to be looked at, it needs attention, it needs change. And so it plays an important role in our lives, and just trying to eliminate it completely is an issue. And so when we think about pain, basically there's many causes for it, and it's really interesting because it's very much aligned to how we become unwell physically. And one of them is trauma. That's where there's some kind of injury or some kind of situation that goes beyond our capacity to cope. So for example, if we break a bone, it's gone beyond the capacity of that bone to maintain its structure. And so trauma is definitely some event or some circumstances that pushed our internal capacity to cope with it. It can definitely be a source of pain, but it's not the only one. Just like in physical wellness, getting into a car accident isn't the only way that we can have pain. Another way that we can experience pain and be unwell is developmental. That there's an aspect of our body or our psyche or the way that we think where it didn't go through the usual and appropriate developmental processes that maybe other people have gone through or that we needed to live our lives. And so thinking about, maybe there are skill sets, maybe there are ways of interacting, ways of thinking that required further development, or they developed in a way that is maladjusted, that produce pain or trouble for us. So that developmental path can also be a source of pain. But just like physically, another way is habitual. We might develop poor habits that end up creating pain in our lives. So as an example, if I'm looking at my phone a lot and I'm crouched over and I'm stooping, I'm going to experience pain. I may have this from experience. I will experience pain, and it's the same with our mental well-being. There are habits that we might fall into. There are habits in the way that we think, relate, behave that basically set us up for pain. And so being aware that it's not just trauma, it's not just developmental issues that we've had, but also habitual issues. Another one is dietary. So depending on what we're consuming physically, we may not be getting the kind of nutrition and the kind of resources that our bodies need. And there's a whole other many episodes to discuss the whole connection between our physical gut and our mental well-being, and literally the connection between the foods that we eat and our mental well-being. But in this case, when I'm saying dietary, I'm talking about the concepts, the content, the ideas that we're consuming mentally. That might include the music that we listen to, the the movies that we watch, or the the news that we read, and how often we read them. What are some things that are like junk thoughts, junk ideas that are not producing much nutrition for our mental wellness? So we can hurt because of trauma, because of developmental issues. We can hurt because of habitual changes that to our normal well-being. We can also hurt because of dietary issues, but also we can get hurt because of overuse. So sometimes we're just really exhausted, and in the same way that you can't just go to the gym and exercise the same muscles over and over and push it to a point where it's overused. Sometimes we just need a break. Sometimes we just need to stop. Sometimes there's relationships that we need a break from to be able to recharge. Maybe there are practices that we need to have in our lives that are like a mental holiday. Yeah. So that's another way in which we can get hurt. Another way, there's many ways, hey. Another way is viral. We can catch a virus when from person to person, when physically, and get like a flu or something like that. But we can catch viral ideas. That's an interesting one, because I was even there was some connection to what I was talking about in episode 2 of social contagion, where emotions are caught from each other. But in the same way that emotions are caught, ways of thinking, ways of perceiving the world, and expectations that we have for our lives, for what should be, they can be caught virally by the people that we are in contact with, and that can sometimes be really harmful depending on who we're around. Some of those ideas can be really damaging to us, and so that can be a source of pain and sorrow for us, are unnecessary. And lastly, I guess, is chronic pain. That's where there's something where we have been unwell in some aspect of our lives, and maybe it didn't feel like a big issue, so we just kind of let it ride. Mentally we've just thought, oh, I'll ignore that thing that's making me feel resentful or unwell. And over time, when there's something physically that we ignore, it can become a chronic problem, where basically by chronic it means that the body has now accepted this issue as part of its default mode of being. and that's an issue, right? And that can make it harder for your body to remove that pain. And so there's many ways in which we can be exposed to pain. We can create pain. And so that's why I wanted to cover this, that trauma is just one of them. And that we shouldn't necessarily just believe that because there's some pain in our lives that we want to jump to thinking of trauma. And the risk of thinking that there's more and more trauma is that we start to see our identity as being connected to trauma. And once you start to see your identity being one of trauma, basically you enter into a whole state of being that becomes more resistant to healing and wellness and overcoming and having power over your life, over the goodness that can enter into your life. And so that's why it's really important to be able to see, okay, if there is trauma, if there has been an event or a situation that kind of broke something in us, it's great and really critical to explore that, to seek how healing can be done. Did we learn some maladaptive ways of compensating for that trauma that need to be reset in our lives? But if there isn't something like that, then there's other things that will be way more beneficial. And so that's what I wanted to cover in terms of, well, where to from here. So like I said, we want to avoid trauma hunting. We want to not go into like a trauma therapy hamster wheel where we're just chasing that emotional release of feeling like there's been some kind of emotional release, but not moving beyond that we don't want to fall into that trap. So so what if there hasn't been an event like that? Then you're going to be in a much better position to start exploring your habits. What are the habits in your life for your mental well-being that are there and that are maybe causing issues? And we're talking about habits that could be the way you sleep, how you eat, like, so physical type habits, but it can also be habits in the way that we think. There could be habits in the way that we respond to specific people or specific circumstances where we might feel lesser than or yeah, just lesser than, and so we might habitually just respond with negativity instead of curiosity. And so exploring those habits is a great way to start to question, why am I responding like this? Why is that my default mode to any positive opportunity? I think, oh no, that won't work, as an example. Habits. Changing the diet of what you consume, changing what you're consuming on social media, really paying attention to lyrics of songs. If you're listening to sad songs all the time, it will make you sad. If you listen to angry songs, it will make you more angry. The those emotions are caught, and you can think about what am I consuming and why? How is this actually adding value to me? Changing who you're around, being conscious about that virality of emotions and thoughts and ideas, really making a sober assessment on the people that you hang around with, that you listen to, that you go to for advice, or when there's a problem. Yeah. And lastly, seeing if you need a break. That might be the easiest short term solution to explore, to give yourself that little bit of perspective around the issues that you're looking at. So once you do that, then you can start exploring the ways of thinking that have developed in your life. So looking at bigger patterns as opposed to specific instances. Maybe 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 you your default mode of how you think about money is one way. Maybe it's thoughts around I will always be poor, or relationships will never work. So these are ideas that have developed, and to start questioning those. And areas like people pleasing, needing approval from others, being absorbed with yourself and not being conscious of other people's needs around you, only being conscious of other people's needs and not really paying any attention to your own needs. So these are all developmental issues that could be causing pain, and a great way to explore that is to journal, because you start to see patterns like longer term patterns in your life, and that can be a great revelation that you notice, oh, I this is what I keep seeing in come up in my journal. So yeah. And then of course, if you're still struggling to create change in any of these areas, seeking therapy is great and useful, and it can be powerful to get the help of someone who knows how to create that change, that positive change for your life. But that was the idea of today, to not fall into this chasing of trauma and chasing therapy experiences that is just a hamster wheel, that don't actually create actual healing in your life. And probably the last point around that is to not fall into the trap of thinking that you should not experience pain. Pain is an important part of life, and a life devoid of pain in some ways is maybe a deluded experience. That because there are things in our lives and in our world that that are painful, that should be grieved, or we should be angered over. And having the expectation that I should never experience pain sets you up for being desperate to escape pain. The moment that you feel it, like it, if you think I shouldn't be feeling pain, the first response is like, oh, I want out. I want to either medicate it away, or I want to basically keep myself busy, occupied with nonsense, so that I don't have to face the pain. So that was the last thing, and I guess that's what I wanted to cover in this episode. I thought I should also give you an update on my inclined bed project. So I think it was a couple of episodes ago, that was episode 1. I talked about I was going to test setting up my bed on an incline, and testing to see what that does to my sleep, to my quality of sleep, and because there's a whole lot of research and around your lymphatic system working a lot better, etc. So anyway, I went and I bought a couple of the yoga blocks, and I've put them under the front of the legs of the front of the bed. So I'm ready tonight to start on that inclined bed, and I'll keep you updated to see how that works. And I guess that brings us to the best part of the golden pause, and that's something that we call the golden reset. So let me just click here. And basically the golden reset is something little that we do, where we are helping your body to be retrained to be a calmer, happier you. And so it's just a guided meditation that we do at the end of each of these episodes, just for a few minutes. And so if you're ready to set your body up to have more peace, now is like a great time to find a comfortable seat, to get yourself ready to just ignore distractions for a couple of minutes. And it's a great opportunity to let your body just relax and find that comfortable position. And in that comfortable position, we always start with a deep breath. And this breath, we always remember that this was the first gift that we received in this world. A deep breath is how we started life, and it is a gift. It's good to receive it, and as you take a deep breath in, feel that expansion deep inside. Feel what that expansion is like inside. And when you're comfortable, let that breath go in a long, peaceful flow. And if you're comfortable, you might like to have your eyes closed or not. But regardless of how your eyes are, you might start to feel that special wave of peace that comes. And it's available to us. It's available to us at any time we need it. And all it takes is for us to take a deep breath and to feel a wave of relaxation come over us. Such a relief to just let go, and it feels so good. In today's world, it's such a relief to find a moment where you can pause, you can reset, you can let your body know that this is the default mode. This is what your subconscious will return your being to. It's a relief to know that you can change, that you are changing. And the change just feels a little bit deeper now. The peace is a little bit deeper. And it's good to just allow your breath to tell your body, be still. And your mind might still want to do some dancing around, some jumping around, but really, it's your breath that is leading. And as your attention moves to that gentle peace that enters with each breath in and each long breath out, your body's remembering this is the default. This is what you will return to naturally anytime you need it. And all it'll take is just a deep breath in. And it's inside of you. And it will remain inside of you. And so, as those thoughts and that feeling settling into your body, it's like they have found a new home in your body. As that settles, you can start to feel the presence of you in your room. You might feel your hands so that you're fully present, and you can feel your alertness coming back. But that peace remains with you. Even as your alertness returns and you are fully back, that peace remains with you. And so I thank you for joining us today. That was something we call the golden reset. And over time, your body is learning how to have this peace. And so, thank you for joining us today. It's a real pleasure for me, whether you're here live or you're watching this on a replay. I'm really happy to share this with you. We go live every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing or hitting that like button. We really appreciate that. But if otherwise, I'll see you next week. All right. Have a great